to the ITI 121 review session. My name is Ahmed Al-Masri, as you can see from this title here, and I'm a learning and development lead with the University of Ottawa Google Developer Student Club. So we run workshops on different subjects and such as Photoshop, such as Java, Python, machine learning, and in web development and many, many other things. And we do these programs year round. And we also just recently started doing midterm reviews, such as this one. And yeah, that's my introduction. And I will pass it along to Sean.
Hi, my name is Sean, and I'm also a learning and dev lead. Some of you might know me as Kuzent within the Discord. As Ahmed said, we run various different workshops across the semester, and we also, much like this occasion, do some midterm review. We're always looking for new members. If you'd like to come join the Developer Student Club, core team applications are now open. Shameless plug. And that's about it.
Okay, so we are going to cover a few things during this. We're just going to start with an introduction by telling you guys what we're going to do first, and then we're going to hop into it. So, what we want to do is we're going to go over some core stuff that we have found to be important, and that's going to come in the form of explanations and code. And then we're going to slot the remaining half of the workshop in order to answer your questions and show you examples of things that might not be clear. And I hope that's okay with everybody. And without further ado, we're going to get it started. All right, just give us a second while I arrange my windows. So we're going to work our way backwards with Sean, do you think we should start with assignment 2 or should we start with the labs first? Because they're
Uh,
both equally as important, I would say.
um, let's start with the program I made.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Just let me make sure. Okay, so it's still recording. That's good. All right. Let us open it here. We have.
Okay.
I know this is a big no-no for this class, but I'm not taking this class, so I'm using an IDE. Um,
How dare you?
so we are in dataset. Let me know which here. Let me just put it in full screen so that it's easier for everybody to see.
Okay. So, as I believe many of us are familiar with, this is data set from assignment 1. I've taken the liberty of using the solution code that GVJ put out after the submissions were finished, and I took the liberty of trying to set up something in the vein of attributes in assignment 2. So if for the 3 people who actually started assignment 2 so far, if you know from task 2 that the goal of task 2 is to look through the attributes of a certain at look at a specific attribute within a CSV file. So one of the examples that they gave was I believe they were looking at Outlook, where we wanted to see all the different unique answers within the attribute from the attribute. What if you might notice if you look at the output is that it's actually quite similar to metadata or print metadata from assignment 1. So if you click if we were to just reuse the same code, and calculate everything, num rows, num columns, etc. And then if you scroll to the main, I believe.
Sure. I'm scrolling down to the main method. Actually, why am I
If
searching?
you're using Control F on the thing. Yep. We are going to take a look at a sample file that I have created, which is going to be tiger, not weather, tigers, completely different. And so we have a data set from this sample file that's going to keep track of its fur color, height, weight, gender, teeth color, fur density, and if it is sick or not, depending on its conditions. If we look through assignment 1, we can simply just reuse the same algorithm to create the 2D matrix as we did before. Now, but say we wanted to create an attribute file, or no, attribute object. We would have to, or aspect in this case. I would create a different class that represents an aspect. A class in this case is essentially our blueprint. It's not a specific object, it's a blueprint. It's telling us we need a name, column, or what column position it's in with according to the matrix, value type, which is just us figuring out if it's nominal or numeric, and a string array, which is going to represent values. Now, with that, the reason why we set it up like this and not have it be specifically for one of the attributes within our whole thing, or our whole 2D matrix, is because we want to be able to reuse this. We set up this blueprint so we can just reuse it. We don't want to keep copy pasting the same different code over and over again. That's just inefficient. So in the example, in this example, I'm going to make a fur color aspect because I want to figure out how many different colors of fur are there within this tiger, or the tiger data I have. I would have my constructor method at the very top from lines 9 through 18. And it's going to take name, column, and a string array. I don't have value type yet because we wouldn't be able to figure it out just yet. I don't want to create another variable and just for this specific purpose. I'm going to make sure the name becomes a name. We keep track of the column is located within the matrix, and then I'm going to send my values array into the util class from before to figure out if it's numeric or nominal. If it returns true and it's a numeric type. Else, it's a nominal, which means it's not numeric. Case in point. And then I'm going to set the values array as the values I put in before within the main. And now if we go to dataset, back to dataset.java, can we run the file, please? Let's see if this doesn't crash.
We just have to wait a second. Here, let me cancel it and run it again.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Add source path maybe.
Oh, there you go.
Let's see, does it work? I can see if I can share my screen real quick.
Pardon?
I can see if I can share my screen real quick.
Yes, that would be great because I don't know why it's lagging up on me.
All good, all good. Let me just double check. Everything's working on my end. before we have crash here. There we go. Okay. So let me.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing so that you can.
Yeah. You have to let me share screens because I don't think I can as a participant. Okay.
Try sharing now. It should let you now.
I'm still marked as a participant.
I'll make you a host. Just make sure that it's still recording.
Yeah, all good. Yep. If you'll pick correctly. Okay. Do you guys see my screen?
I can. Just post in the chat if you can't see Sean's screen.
Okay. So let's just double check here. This is our data that we have so far. Camera's right here. Nice. We have our attribute names up here, and we're going to be specifically looking for fur color. So in this case, when we call our constructor, aspects fur color is equal to new aspects. Name fur color, it's on column 0. We know this. And then we're going to have reference the method from before, get unique attribute values for color specifically. Because remember, there's two versions of this where we can reference the column type or the column or the name specifically of the attribute. And we're going to print it out. Tiger.csv. And so when I've already implemented a toString here, where if I do system.out.println, it will print out the name of the attribute, column position, what type it is, and what is within the array or the string array given. And if you notice here, it's also quite similar to metadata, which may or may not stand as a hint, I would say. Does anyone have any questions as to how this all works? Just raise your hand just in case. We Gucci? I think so. And while we're here, should I explain lab 4?
Yeah, we can do that together if you'd like. We can get started. If you have it open already, great. I can also send you the link.
I don't have it open.
Oh, okay.
Let me see if I can just. Do you have it open on your end?
Yes.
Okay,
Just
I'm just
make
going.
me host and I'll.
Yep. I'm going to stop the share. And let's see. There you go. You should have hosting rights now.
Yep. There it is. Okay. So, do you want me to go to a specific part or the actual like lab, like Java files?
Let's just go to the Java files immediately.
Sure, sure. We can start with post, and let me just cancel this runtime.
Yep, all good. I hear my dad sneezing downstairs. Nice. Okay, so if there's one thing that really gets everyone excited, it's inheritance, of course. And so if we, I know for some who I've talked, some people I've talked to, they were kind of iffy on the concept of inheritance and interfaces. So I'm going to try my best to explain it. I kind of understand it, mostly. And so the way I see it is that interfaces are kind of like blueprints of blueprints, if that makes sense. So the best, let's just look at the example that they gave us. So if you go to post, post itself, give me just a second. I had to remember my code. If I can open it on my screen, to the left. Post itself, I guess, is our base file here. Everything else, ranging from photo post to text post, is going to be based off of this. And so the different attributes of post is that it has if I could pull it up on my other screen. Different attributes of post is that it can take likes, it has a toString setup, and it also has a username and a timestamp slot. Those are the basic necessities of a post. And of course, since we're going to be creating very similar objects to post, instead of having to recode all the commands within post, we can just extend it. What extending means is that you're essentially inheriting all the methods from post. Am I getting that correct? Just about? Or
Like when you're talking about inheritance from post or inheritance from likable?
inheritance from post.
So you mean like photo post inheriting or
It's getting
extending
extending.
post?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you said, it's just the class photo post will take everything that's included in post, all the functionality, and you can either choose to replace that functionality with your own version. So for example, if you needed your own get username in photo post, you could do that here. And when you're extending, you also add your own functionality. So yeah, you covered it.
Just about. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to cover.
Get instance. Good question. Sorry, I'm a little rusty in this class, so you'll have to bear with me while I. What is the get instance return? Do you know where the get instance method is? In line 12. Okay.
In line 12.
Right.
Okay,
So we can, yeah, you can take this from here.
yeah, so it just shows on the blurb. If you can hover over it again. It's just grabbing. It gets a calendar using the default time zone and locale, which I think is based off of your own system time, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I think it just takes your current time zone, your current location, and your current date, and uses that to, like, the calendar just basically operates off of your OS.
Yes, just around. And essentially, all it's there for is to make sure that we get the timestamp for each post within the lab.
As a generalization, though, for get instance, it just means that you're instantiating an object. So like calendar.get instance means that you're creating a calendar object. But in this specific case, it's just getting the calendar object with your system's information so that you can get your time and calculate time.
Yeah, just about.
Well, get time is just more like get current time. I don't know. Actually, I can just experiment with this really quickly because now I'm curious too, but you can do, and this is a thing that a lot of IDEs do, which is code completion. So you can do get, so for example, I can get time of milliseconds, and a bunch of other things that I don't think we have time to go over, although that does look cool. And get time will basically just return a date object. So this part where you do calendar.get instance, you're getting an instance of the calendar, and get time is a method of calendar where you get the current time.
Yeah, that sounds about right, I would say. For newsfeed, what was the issue you were having with newsfeed? Because I can go over that as well, or at least my thought process.
I can pull up the requirements, by the way, if you need them.
Yeah. I also have it on my other monitor.
See, this is too well designed because whenever I try to select text, it just scrolls me back to the back page as if I'm flipping a book.
I felt that. For inheritance, when a subclass inherits from a parent class, it can either implement its own methods or use one implements in the parent class, right? Are there other things you can do with inheritance?
So just to clarify, do you want to know about interfaces as well in terms of inheritance? Just knowing if no, just inheritance of actual classes. Okay. Um, so aside from that, that's really it for inheritance. Really, you're just creating an object. Like, hold on, let me just, if I could. Really, what you're doing is you're just creating an object, and I don't know if you guys can see the sketch on my
Yep,
screen,
it's all good.
but basically, say we have animal, and an animal like a land animal, I guess, can walk, it can make a noise, it can eat, it can do whatever. But a dog specifically, a trained dog at that, knows to respond to specific commands such as sit, such as shake, such as roll over. And so those are specific because a dog inherits like the animal class, but a dog can do more. And so you're just taking methods that already exist and using those. And yeah, you can create your own version or you can extend on it. So yes, that's about it. There's not much else that you can do with inheritance. Um, Although you can have multiple inheritances and you can have multiple classes inheriting the same parent class. And yeah, I don't know why I put so much effort into drawing that last one.
Here, it's effort well spent. Mm.
Oh, inheritance and extends. Could you explain get photo? Okay, we'll handle this.
Okay, so let's do difference between implements and extends first.
Sure. So inheritance happens like we said before, where you have an existing class, right? You have something that already has its own methods and is already a complete unit of code. It's already its own class and can be instantiated. But extending, sorry, yeah, extending basically takes it a step further. So if I'm not mistaken, extending, hold on, just to make sure that I'm not, uh, sorry, just let me look at this code really quickly and then I'll be able to tell you.
Yep.
Oh, how nice it even shows up here. If you want, if you have a better explanation up your sleeve, you can give it now. But I'm just checking to make sure I'm saying the right thing.
Yep. I'm just going to double check my code as well.
So basically, when we're talking about implementation and extension, so what happens is that when you're implementing, say you have an interface, like in the case of this lab here, you have likable, and it's just an interface. So what an interface will tell you is specifically what the method will return, what data you have, what methods you have, and everything that you need. And so when you implement something, you are giving that functionality because an interface in of itself doesn't do anything. An interface just tells you what it's supposed to do. And when you implement an interface, you're giving functionality, you're putting functionality to those methods. But when you're extending something, that means that you're taking existing functionality, like in the case that I told you of
Animal and dog.
animal and dog.
Mhm.
And so when you're extending something, you're just adding functionality. You take the functionality that exists and then you tack onto that. Whereas, like I said before, inherit or implementation is just taking what you're supposed to do and actually making it happen.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. And then can you explain get photo posts and plus methods for newsfeed.java? Yeah. Head over to newsfeed. Okay. So I'll do add first because it's already right here. So essentially what let's just think about what newsfeed is. Newsfeed itself is an object that it's a fancy object which of just an array of 25 spaces, or an array with a max size of 25. And so all we're doing all add is just adding to that array of posts within newsfeed. And so what I have here is that we need to first we need to consider our max size. If you remember from the lab, the max size of our newsfeed is 25 posts. If it goes beyond that, you're not allowed in. And so first we do an if statement. If the size of our newsfeed is already at our maximum capacity, which is our max size variable, then we're just going to print out too many posts. We can't add this. Else, in the case we have less than 25 posts, we're going to add the post. We're going to add the post that we're referencing into into our array, and then we're going to increment our size up by 1, so we are aware that we're getting closer to our max size. And then next we want to look at get photo post. Okay, so what get photo post is that we want to return a newsfeed that is exclusively just photo posts and not just like a mishmash of everything. So what we're going to do is that we're going to create a newsfeed called photos. So we're going to make a completely new newsfeed with nothing in it so far. And then we're going to increment through our newsfeed, and we're going to check each and every post on it to see if it's an instance of photo post. We're doing this to weed out any like normal posts or text posts. If it is an instance of a photo post, so if instance of photo post is equal to true, then we're going to add it to our new photos newsfeed. Else, we're just going to continue and just keep going. And then once we've gone through every single post within our original newsfeed, we're going to return our photos, which is just going to contain only photo posts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's also plus, I think, and that's the last one.
Plus. Okay, so what plus is essentially we're combining two different newsfeeds together in order to just have like one big newsfeed, or one big newsfeed. But we also need to make sure we consider the size of 25. And so since we're working with just two different newsfeeds, and that's all it's asking, we're just going to make a new newsfeed called combination, and then we're just going to iterate through both newsfeeds and just add it to the new newsfeed we've just made. So we just have one for loop for this for I is equal to 0 until we get to I is equal to the size of the original. We're going to add it to combination, which is our new newsfeed. And then we go through the other one, add it to combination, and then we're going to sort it, and then we return it. That's all it is.
And then at the end, I guess you sort by date, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So yeah, you just take the. Okay. Sorry, I was curious as well.
Yeah, no, all good, all good. Okay. Is there any other questions about Lab 4?
Can I ask a question about plus?
Plus, yeah, sure, go for it.
So wouldn't we have to like have an if statement that kind of checks that we're not going over the size of 25 when we're adding to the combination?
That's already being covered by the add method, because if we scroll up, remember that we have that if statement right there, checking
Okay.
if we're at our max size.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, good. Do we have any other questions about Lab 4? Going once, going twice. Sold.
Feel free to either use your microphone or use the chat if you don't have one or can't use one. And you have a fan.
Yes.
And we'll continue with Lab 4. Do you want to go more over the, like, is there any other files that you want to go over in Lab 4?
I think that's about it. They're relatively self-explanatory, I would say. All right, I can just I'll go over one of them, I guess, just to make sure. Let's just go over post. So post itself is just a class that will allow us to make objects. Hi, Hamza. Love you, man. And so the different things we need to keep track for a post is the amount of likes, the timestamp, and the username with this post. And so because of this, we need to create a constructor method. And so our constructor method on line 11 is just requires a username. And so we just would create like a new post, and then we'd put in a username, and then it would we're going to generate a time on line 12, set that as our timestamp, set our username as the username for the post, and we're going to let likes equal to 0. Why is likes being equal to 0? Well, if you start at 16 likes, you're most likely hacking. And then with our class, we need to make sure we have the appropriate getters, because it's generally good practice to have getters for all our different variables. And then if we remember from the interface likable, we need to make sure that our object is likable. So we implement a like method, which is just going to increment our likes variable up by 1. On line 37, we have a toString, which just allows us to just print out our post and not have it be the memory address. It would just print out all the information we need for post. We have a compare to method, which allows us to generate an integer saying whether or not if the post is the same or not. I believe it just compares the timestamp, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it's the timestamp. Yes, it is the timestamp. And then the is popular method is simply just us examining if you have over 100 likes, because apparently 100 is where we're drawing the line for popularity. If it's over 100, then it's marked as popular. If it's below that, it's not popular. I'm very sorry.
We also had a question about the difference between protected, private, and public variables. Should I go over it, or do you want to go over it?
Can you take the reins for that?
Sure. So here's I'll give just a quick drawing example, and then I'll just also show in code if that doesn't take too much time. So when we have a Java, whoops, whatever. When we have a Java program, right? So this is our top level Java program. So what happens is that sometimes we want to store our files. We have too many files to store in one folder or one package. And so we want to split that up. And so what happens is that we'll have these little folders, we'll call them, which are called packages. It's not perfect, but it'll suffice for now. And each one of those packages contains little files. Now, if something is public, if I decide to say that something is public, that means it can be accessible by anything inside this Java program. In any other package, in any other file, it's always accessible by everything else. Now, if I say that something is protected, that means that it can only be accessed that uh, within that package. And if I say something is private, that means it can only be accessed within that class. Thanks, Maxime. So that's kind of the difference between public, protected, and private, which is that public is accessible by anything in the program. Protected is anything within the same package or folder. And then finally, private is only accessible within the same file. And I'll show you guys an example in code so that it's a little more clear.
Remember, for assignment 2, we can only make private methods. Don't make public methods. You might fail. I don't know if that's true, but be very scared.
So I'm going to make a new file also called example.java, and we're going to call it public class example. So this public class means that this can be instantiated anywhere else, meaning that I can go in here and I can say, I can go up to the top of this long file and say import lab. And I'm not going to dox you by reading out your. And I can say, even in this other folder, I can import the example class, and I can use that there. Now, it's not working right now, but that's just because it's Visual Studio Code doing its nonsense. So, for example, in here, if I say I have a private integer called, I don't know, height. Now, yes, you
Yes,
actually can you create variables of your own in assignment 2? I know you can create private methods, but I don't know if they mentioned private variables.
I'm not 100% sure.
The rules? I'm sure you have the document up.
Yeah, I can pull up the document right now. Worst case scenario, you ask on Piazza.
Going back to the the difference between private and protected. Here in this method, I can say height equals 12, and that's fine. It should be able to work, I guess. Cannot make a static. Oh, right. My bad. I did the one sin that you're not supposed to ever make.
What did you do?
Reference a static in a non-static. Sorry, reference non-static in a static context.
I'm disgusted.
So let's say I have my public method print height. Right? So then I can say, oh darn, that doesn't work. system dot out dot println height. And so
Yes,
the
you can
print
add
height.
private variables.
Oh, you can?
Or actually, that's what he said for, I think that's assignment 1. I'm going to assume it's the same. From what I saw on a question yesterday, he said it is not anticipated that you will need to define new private instance variables. It's not a no. That.
Nice.
What did you do? Did you say? Oh, yeah. You didn't give. Did you give height a value?
Sure. Let's.
Yeah, pretty sure you to give it a value.
It's throwing me an error because it's referencing a static variable or a static reference to a non-static variable.
People said.
Yeah, that's odd. Anywho,
don't you have to initialize the height? Yeah, just within your main, just instantiate height as, or initialize it.
Sure. Oh, I can still add access modifiers.
Is it maybe because you're calling it from a static method?
That wasn't the issue. The issue is that void in like main in and of itself is a static method.
Mm-hmm.
So calling anything that's non-static from a static method always causes Java to throw a fit. Yeah, this is not working out in my favor. I'm gonna lie to you. The format of the midterm. That would be something that you're gonna have to ask either Sean or your professors because we do not know the format specifically.
Yeah. Personally, I do not know anything about the midterm. I can hope it's easy.
Actually, this is sorry. Can I use your post example because this is perfect actually.
Yeah, go for it.
To show the difference between protected and private.
Go crazy.
So, if I take this main method, so I have this main method, and I'm just gonna instantiate a post object, and we're gonna call it post t. Post t equals new post. Does it require any arguments to?
You need a name.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so it's like username.
Post Malone. So we have 3 variables that we have in this class, which is the likes, which is protected, and we have the private date and private username. So if I wanted to print out posty dot likes, I can do that because it's protected, and that means that I can access it from within this package, within this folder. If I go anywhere outside of this folder, I can't do that anymore. So if I run this now, it prints out 0, which is how many likes we have, right? But if I were to do the same thing with the timestamp or the username, it just won't work because it's private, which is why we have these getters and setters, because they're public methods that allow us to get this information without referencing the private variables. You'll see later in your courses why this is important, but basically, in a nutshell, it prevents programmers from changing things that you don't want them to change when you're passing your code to other programmers. And as for what we're supposed to do in the methods, if the instructions don't seem super clear to us, so we showed us task 1 and task 2 more or less in vague terms, but in terms of if it's not clear, I think it would be best practice to ask your
Yes.
professor, unless you can expand on what you mean.
I
Hamza?
think just generally what he's talking about is that the overall assignment 2 has what they're asking us to do is very vague and very open-ended. And so I believe he's just asking for clarification on some of those, on like where we're supposed to go with our methods. In all honesty, I can't really give you proper clarification because I myself am not very sure. At least I would agree that at least for assignment 1, it wasn't amazingly clear. I can give you the only tip I can really give you is just kind of brute force and hope it works. And it looks kind of like the example. It worked out for me. At least I got a 90 on it. So yeah, it's about what's the yeah, no, I don't think you're alone on that. Like it's
So in the you and Hamza seem to have like a synergy going, but the right way to look at these assignments, there's not really a prescribed way, but one sorry, and I'm just trying to pull up the assignment so that I can actually read it with you guys. Goodness, I have to wait for the screen to go away.
when do we know to use this or not? Do you mean like for the public private and protected? Does any of them? When would be the best case to use them? You would say, Ahmad?
Sorry, when do we know when to use public, private, or protected? Sorry, I was trying to get back to sharing screens.
Yeah.
I wasn't listening.
Yeah, that.
Um, Usually the best way, like it usually comes in the form of a question, like, is this variable or method supposed to be used by everybody? Like, can any is this method supposed to be accessed by everybody, or is it supposed to be only used by the internal class? I think he means this for instance variables. So for instance variables, usually that's for things that are important to the functionality of the class or things that don't concern other, how do I put it, other classes. So for example, if I'm making a class that converts temperature from degrees Celsius to degrees Fahrenheit, the classes aren't necessarily concerned with the conversion factors or the fractions or the ratios that I need to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit. What they are concerned with is the output. So the output would be public, the result would be public, but all of those conversion factors and things inside the class need to be private or protected because the other classes don't really need them. And that's the best explanation I can give, is that if the other classes don't need it, or if it's important to the class in a way that it could seriously alter its performance if another programmer were to change it, then it needs to be private. Otherwise, it's okay to leave it public. Some methods for linked list. Can you expand on that? Because like what methods of linked like what methods of linked list are you pertaining to or referring to? Going back to the open-ended part of the question, and I'm just gonna like pedal back to the right way to look at assignments without, because things are usually open-ended, is the way that I normally do these programming as assignments, and I know this sounds counterintuitive, is that sometimes I'll do the examples on paper, as in I'll break it down, not necessarily into code, not necessarily into anything specific, but just into understandable human steps, and I'll take it step by step on pen and paper. Maybe not in this case. I don't know how feasible it is when you have to calculate entropy unless you have a good calculator, but I'll run through the process myself and ask myself, how can I replicate this process through a computer? How can I get these same results with a computer? We're allowed. Oh, you want a brief idea on linked list?
Yeah, it's like a brief
Sure,
explanation.
sure. Linked list is a whole thing because, and you will learn about it, I think, later on in this course, I believe, or I'm not sure if this course covers it.
I hope so.
Um, I mean, here in this course, you're supposed to know your syllabus. But anyways, as for linked list, the idea is like this. Say I have an object A, or actually, how do I best describe it? Um, hmm. Yeah, let's say you want to relate objects together. So say I have object A, and then I have object B, and then I have object C, and so on. And I'm just gonna, this is a lot of noise, so I'm just gonna go into this background here. And so what happens with this is that when I have a linked list, it's all it is. It's a link from A to B to C and so on and so forth. And so I start here at A. Actually, and let me change colors. I start here at, darn it, A, and then I hop over to B, and then I hop over to C. And that's the main idea behind a linked list. It's kind of like when you have a queue of things that you want to get through it. Say, for example, you have tasks that say you have a program, right? And you need to go through a very specific pre-prescribed set of steps. That that means that you need to start at A, then go on to B, then go on to C. In a singly linked list, you would have it only going one way, as in you only go from A to B to C in a very linear fashion. And then C ends at something we call the, how do I put it, the tail node, which is basically an empty node that just means nothing. It's just a way to tell you, hey, the linked list is done. That's it. And with A, we always start with a head node, which tells us where we start with the linked list. And so you just hop from head to A to B to C. Another thing, and you'll learn about this too, I hope, which is the doubly linked lists. So doubly linked lists allow you to go backwards. So you can go from A to B to C and then backwards. And then there's another variation that goes all the way around that links. So there's another variation of singly linked list, and this one is the most complicated to work with. But you have singly linked lists where you go from head to A to B to C to tail, and then you go all the way back to head. So there's like three main variations on linked lists that you'll learn about as you go on. And they implement different functionalities. So sometimes they'll implement queues, which is just like a ordered sequence of steps, or you have a stack where it's like whatever command came in most recently, that's the one you need to execute. Does that kind of give you a brief explanation on linked lists? No
Okay.
problem. I'm sure it's in this course, and you'll see some code about this. If you want examples to make it more clear, let me know, because I've done this. I've done way too many examples with linked lists on implementing stacks, queues, and other data structures.
Apart from that, do we have anything else we can go over? I'm trying to check our list here.
Mind you, by the way, guys, if you have any questions, once again, just ask them, because we do have a list of topics, and anything you need, we can answer.
Mhm.
Hopefully.
Thank you, Raymond. Doesn't look like we have. Can you not?
Can you not go over whatever learned till now?
Is there time? Is there time to go over linked lists?
We everything is
From the beginning of the
from the
course.
beginning of the course. We have an hour. I don't think that's a very big ask. I'm not gonna lie to you. Going from the beginning is a huge undertaking. But if you tell us specific, like if we have a list of topics that, and I'll show it here, just so we're open with you guys. But we have a list of topics that we go over throughout the class. Um, we can also pull up your syllabus and ask what you guys want to cover. Concepts typically asked on the midterm. Sure. Do you have any example midterms, Sean? Like any, does your class include any?
I don't think we've actually gotten any. Let me double check the bright space. Yeah, like we don't know really anything about the midterm.
That's weird. Usually your profs by now would like release some information about what it's going to have, but I guess they're taking their time about it.
On the GVJ sites, okay. I will take a quick gander.
While you do that, I'm also going to pull up the syllabus.
Yep. Oh,
It
good.
doesn't include the actual topics.
Examinations practice. There we go. It was on Turcotte's site. Okay. Merci, Turcotte.
Clutch. Hey, I found the
Nice.
2019 one. Or was it 2018? I forget now.
Might as well take a look at it.
We'll take a look at the 2021 because that one was the most recent. So this one is an implementation. Implement the constructor.
Okay, so a magic square is an n by n grid filled with the numbers 1, 2 to up to n squared, such that each row and each column, as well as the two main diagonals, all have the same sum called the magic constant. And so here we have to make sure that each row, each column, and each diagonal adds up to 15.
So this has to do with two-dimensional arrays.
Two-dimensional arrays.
that right off the bat comes to mind. Implement constructors.
D would probably be your hardest method to do.
D, implement the helper is magic diagonals. Oh,
Yeah, so
I guess one thing, yeah, I feel like I should have mentioned this. Like, I don't know why it wasn't obvious when the question was asked, but two-dimensional and just array methods in general, huge part of a lot of this course is questions, because a lot of the math, like the questions that you're going to get in this course, have to do with math. So questions like these, where you have to do mathematical problems. One time for my class, we had to implement a little video game.
Scroll down to the next page.
Sure.
It shows you what we need to do. Okay. It just shows you the output. Okay, that's not too bad, actually.
And yeah, you have to do it via pen and paper, although
Of course. We're most likely going to be programming it straight.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, given that it's online, you have a wonderful opportunity to test your code. I did not say this to you guys. Don't.
At least for ITI 1120, all of our tests were also like we just straight programmed it. We didn't do pen and paper. So I imagine it'd be the same case here. Yeah. No, actually I can just try to code this right now. Let's do a live code through.
I'm also going to just gloss over the other questions to complete the implementation of the class the reverse. Okay. Another thing that they may ask you is about access modifiers and about inheritance and about access modifiers, inheritance, extension, implementation. They may ask you about polymorphism. Probably. I mean, if they mention inheritance, you can expect to hear about polymorphism. What else is there? Those are the big five that usually get asked on midterms, and they usually come in the form of either multiple choice questions or in the form of practical questions where they ask you, so the big five that they'll usually ask about is inheritance, polymorphism, extension, implementation. They'll ask you about the difference between primitive and reference values, and they'll ask you about scope. And actually, that's 6 now, but they'll either come in the form of multiple choice or definition questions, where they'll ask you, like, define this, or it'll come in the form where they'll say, is this scope valid? Is this reference to this variable valid? If not, can you replace it with a valid reference to the variable? What is auto boxing? What is auto unboxing?
Do you mind if I'm going to do it? Let's do a live. I'm going to do a live code through of question 1.
Question 1? Sure. I'll make you host.
Yep, toss me host and I'll give it a shot.
Giving you God status.
Hell yeah. Okay. Yes, I'm just going to share that screen. Okay, so just making sure, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, at least I can.
Okay, so I'm just going to go through how I would probably do this question. So first we're given like what they're expecting of the file. So public class magic square, open bracket, close bracket, set that up first. And then we have to set up a constructor, public magic square. All we're going to be given all we need for this constructor is going to be an integer array. So int values. And what I'm also going to do right off the bat is that I'm going to set up main. Public static void main string array args close bracket. Reason I'm going to do that is just because I'm going to be testing essentially as I go. One thing that's going to be that we need to make sure we do is that we test as we go and not all at the end, because if we do that, we don't know where our problem is and we're going to cry. I did that for assignment 1. S1, S2, instantiate those, and we're going to just integer values new int square bracket curly bracket 1 8 6 3 5 I forgot no comma there 1 8 6 3 5 3 5 7 7 4 9 2. Did that work out? Yes, int values. Forgot the equal sign there. Okay, so we're just going to set this up. This is going to be, this right now is going to be our example case. And we're going to always keep going back to this. For our constructor, let's see. In the class declaration, declare 3 instance variables. So we go to our class up here. I'm going to set up the 3 instance variables. We need a reference variable used to designate a one-dimensional array of integer values. So this is just going to be an integer array, int array, int values. Yeah, there. We're going to set this to private, I think. That's going to be our best case here. A variable to store the size of the grid. That's going to be an integer as well. Private int size, because size in this case does matter. And then a variable to store the magic constant, which is going to be 15 in this example. This is also going to be an int, because since this is an integer array, we're not going to have any decimals here. So private int magic. So that clears our part A. Let's go to our next one. We need to implement this constructor. Make sure that you're, give me a second here. Do we use private for the instance variables for a specific reason? For me personally, I'm just putting it there for now. If I need to make it public, I'll make it public then. And we're probably going to set up getters down the line. Yep. I'm going to keep chat on the left like I do on Twitch. Let's see. For a constructor, the constructor stores values of this magic square. Yeah. Specified by the parameter, as illustrated by a test program on the next page. An object of the class magic square is not affected by subsequent changes to the array of values passed as an argument to the constructor. Herein, you can assume that the parameter will not be null, and the given array forms a square. Okay, so for this, we can luckily assume that it's going to be the power of 2 for some integer 3 or higher. And then the constructor calculates and stores the size of magic square. My friend just sent me nachos. Thank you. Constructor calculates and stores the size of magic square. Okay. That's not going to be too hard. So first, we need to take care of integer values. So this dot values so we make sure we don't get confused, is going to equal values. So relatively self-explanatory, I would say so. And then we need to figure out size. So we're going to make this dot size is equal to the length of values. So values dot length. There. That's also relatively self-explanatory, I would say. If we're given an array, we just check the length, and that's the size of our magic cube or square. And then let's grab our magic value. This is going to be a bit harder because how are we supposed to figure this out? Oh no. So here's what we're going to do. Since we know in this example, we have it stored, we have length stored as 9. Now, I think here we're allowed to import math. Yeah. Reminders, in Java, math.square root, AA, can be used to calculate the square root of a number. So because it's giving us a reminder, it means it's most likely asking us to use this. So let's import math. Let me just make sure I have chat pulled up. Yes, it would give us 9. That's one of the things we need. We need size. The size of the entire thing. Wait. Where size represents hold on. Store the size of the grid, both number of rows and number of columns of the magic square. So it'd be 3. Okay. Thank you for catching that. I would have failed. Because we need size, we need math dot square root of values dot length, and then we need to cast this as a double, which do I remember how to cast as a double? Would anyone like to remind me how to cast to a double?
Sure. It's whatever the value is, and then you put like next to it, you put a bracket, double bracket.
Just like that?
Yeah. If you want to keep the result of math.square root as a double, you need to put it next to the whole thing. So like next to the equal sign or next to the semicolon.
Can I interfere for a sec?
Yeah, what's up?
Double before the math dot square root.
Just like this? Or no capital? There?
Yeah. And space.
Here we go. Cannot convert from double to int. Give me a second here. Would be there. But then would you have to recast as an int? Yes, you do. There we go. Okay, so we have to double cast this to a double for the purposes of the method itself, and then we have to cast it back to an int because we remember that size itself is an integer. And as it says in the thing, it's just asking us for the length of the columns and rows. And so because we have this number, right, and we need to figure out the magic number, if we didn't do that, would it give us an error? If we didn't cast as an integer? If we didn't cast as a double, yeah, we would get an error if we didn't cast to a double.
You can show the difference in execution between double and non-double.
Yeah.
Like basically what happens when you cast a double is that certain operations require that the number that you're using is a double, that it has a floating point. Otherwise, you lose out on precision. So it doesn't really cause an error in the traditional sense. It just causes an improper calculation, or your number just comes out completely wrong because you don't have your decimal points. As for converting back to int, that's just to make sure that your result is matching with the type of the variable in and of itself.
Yes, because earlier we said it so the instance variable has to be an integer. This might be too much, but if variable magic is constant, should we not call it final? I'm not sure.
If actually, if it is constant, you can call it a final, I think.
You could, yeah.
Like, as long as it doesn't change throughout your execution.
I don't think it would change. It shouldn't, at least. Okay. Why do we have to use square root in this dot size? So size itself, all it's asking for is the size of the columns and rows, right? It's not asking for how many elements there are in this 2D array. All it's asking for is just the length of the column, length of the row, etc. And since we're working with a square, it's just going to be the same value for column, row, diagonal. So we just do square root for the length of the entire thing. All good. Okay. And so now we're at the value of the magic constant. So here's how we're going to figure it out. If we take a look at this array, let's just actually visualize it like this. Let me just tab this over. Let's just visualize it like that. I know it might be a bit small. When we're using math, do we always do double to not precision? Yes, I believe so. In this case, it's just specifically for the square root function. There might be methods in the math library that just require an integer. You just cast if accordingly, if need be. So now that we've set up our array like this, we can properly visualize how it's supposed to look. So how we're going to figure out what the magic size is that we're just going to iterate through here up until we get to values. So what that entails is for int I is equal to 0, semicolon, I is less than size, and then I plus plus, close bracket, open curly. Let's see, we're going to have do we need a temporary variable? Yeah, we need a temporary variable. Temp is equal to 0. I'm not using Python. Temp is equal to temp plus values at position I. Okay, well, I can go over it after this question. And so we set up this for loop, and we're going to iterate through the values array up to 3, because we know the reason why we have this for loop here is to get the magic number. Since we know that the maximum size of a column is 3, we're just going to iterate up to 3. So we have a temporary variable that starts at 0, and then we're just going to go through the array for 3 times. First, it's going to become 1, and then it's going to go through again. It's going to see 8, it's going to add that to temporary variable. So the temporary variable turns from 1 to 9. It's going to go through again. It sees that it's at 9. It sees 6. It's going to add it to 9, and it becomes 15. After we've done that loop, we have our magic number at 15. And so we are going to let this dot magic is equal to temp. Most likely you could just have it refer to magic straight from there. I just do it like this because personal preference. Yeah. Should we not say return temp? We're not returning anything. This is just a constructor. So this is just a constructor, so we don't need to return anything. We don't owe it anything. Okay, so let's take a look. Constructor stores the values. Yes. Calculate stores the size of magic square. Yep. And compute the value of the magic constant. Yep. That is all covered for. And then C, get size, get constant. And then implement the instance method. We'll just go through as it is. Let's not jump the gun here. Okay, so let me just remind myself here. Not this. There we go. Okay. First, we need to do get size, public get size, and we need to make it so we're returning an integer. Curly brackets, return size. That's all it is. Getter methods are really easy. Hint: if you're using the right IDE, sometimes you can have it just automatically set up. I had to do it for Android Studio. It was kind of useful. I believe for the most part they're public. Ahmad, am I right on that?
Getters are usually public, almost always.
Yes.
Yeah, the only time I can see them being protected is, once again, if you only need it within the same package. Like in the case of certain programs where you have like sub-programs that don't really interact with other parts of the program. But that's very specific.
Yeah. So B is get constant. So same thing here, public int get constant, curly bracket, return magic. And then implement the method get value at position row and column. The method returns the value stored at location row and column of the grid. The first row and column have index 0. You can assume that the values will be valid. Careful, this is a 2-dimensional. Oh, this is hard. Nice. Okay. Trying to think how I'd do this. We're given an x and y coordinate. We're given the row and column coordinate, and we have to operate within a 1-dimensional array. Trying to think. I have an idea, but I think it's going to be inefficient. You know what? I'm going to try it. This is most likely going to be very inefficient. Yeah, I just might set up a 2D array for this. Okay. So public returns value, which we know is an integer. get value in row in column. Okay. Yep. So we're going to set up int 2D. Actually, no, let's give it a better name. Square modify is equal to new int. Let's see if I know how to do this properly. Magic, like that. Yep. And then we do would wait, yeah, would be size. Thank you. Size. Reading week has gotten me too comfortable. Then we're going to have a for loop for int I is equal to 0, I, or, yeah, no, okay, so I is less than size, I plus plus, and then we're going to have another one, or, no, trying to think. Trying to think here. I have an idea. Let's set up a counter. No, we need to set up out
This
here.
is just one thing you could do, and which is like, you'll cover this later, which is a modular arithmetic, where you can do, hold on, how do I put this? Like, so you're just to clarify, and I just want to make sure this is correct. Does the array like always have to be 3 by 3?
No, yeah, it can be any size squared.
Okay. Then you can, I think you can do, like, because this is, sorry, just give me a sec. I'm trying to think. Like, you
Oh,
can do
good.
mod, like mod size, the square root of size. Because if you have the array and it's being put into a square array, this is square in this question, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So you could do these, like, you have the square root of size. So for example, if you have an array of 9 and that the size is 3, um, and then you can do, for example, like, so you do like I mod 3. So for example, 0 mod 3 is 0, 1 mod 3 is 1, 2 mod 3 is 3, and then 3 mod 3 is 0 again. You catch my drift?
Kind of. I think.
What you could do is, if you're getting value by, like, you're getting value from the 1D array, right, that you have initially.
Yeah.
So, and like, what you could also do is that you could, for example, get the value at, what is it? Column, yeah, column times, no, wait, row times size plus column.
Row times size plus column.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for loop. Let's see. Yeah, so for loop for i's less than equal values dot length, and then you do j is less than I dot length, just like Vita showed us. That was just like a couple months ago, and now I barely remember.
I think because you're getting the value from the row and column of a 1D array, you can do row times size plus column, because like the best way I can explain it is if you have a 9-dimensional array that's into a 3x3 cube, and say you want to get the value at row 3, column 2, right? So that would be position. What was it? Sorry, row 2, column 2. So like the last index of the last, like the last index in the. I feel like I'm having a bad time explaining this, but basically, if you have a 9D array and you turn it into a 3x3 cube and it starts at 0, the indexing. So say you want to access column or row 2, column 1. So you just go 2 times 3, which is 6, position 6.
Yes.
And then plus 2.
Plus 2.
Plus 1, rather.
So would I just be returning row times column plus size then?
Row times size plus column.
Row times size. Would that just be the return?
Yeah, because you're skipping the first 6 elements because you're skipping 2 rows. And then you're traversing to the end. So return values.
Row times size plus column. Okay. Let me. I always do this because I'm paranoid.
And I could be wrong, so just give it a shot and see.
We'll give it a shot. If not, we will go the original route. Yeah, I'm gonna quickly just let me just also remove this bunk, move that bunk. Actually, I can just oh god, that did not paste properly.
Yeah, they do that on purpose to prevent people from copying.
That is just evil.
I know. Or maybe it's just bad formatting and they weren't paying attention.
Yep.
But it's been consistent with every programming class I've had, so I'm inclined to believe it's just a preconscious decision.
That's just evil. They are scamming.
I mean, yeah, you give them all you have in terms of money, and then they pull this. So like,
S2 new magic. They're really screwing us over of hitting Control C, Control V. And then I really walk line. I'm just gonna bonk. S1 dot get constant. S1 dot is magic. I don't think we've implemented that yet. Yeah, we haven't implemented that yet.
get constant. I think you did.
No, is magic. That's one we haven't implemented yet. S2.
Just to like, what's the word? Help my paranoia. Could you just test the get value method?
Yes, sure.
Just test it with like whatever you choose. I'll let you decide. I can't think of a number right now off the top of my head.
Let's just place it like that so I can understand it. S1 dot get value at, let's say row would we still be starting from 0 for a column?
Yes.
Or
yeah.
let's just say 0, row 0, position 3. So that the expected would be 6.
Actually, row 0, column 2.
Row 0, column 2. Oh yeah, right. Gotcha. Okay, let's see if this crashes. I think it'll crash. If it crashes, that's fine. That's expected because we don't have a 2-string. I don't think it even asked us to do a 2-string. Yeah, it didn't ask.
Which is the method that crashed? I'm confused now.
No, it didn't crash. It didn't crash. It's just
print S1.
it's asking
Okay,
us
there's
to.
no 2-string.
There's no 2-string, so that's just expected. Why is this magic equals 10? Well, if we're given a set of values where the sum of the entire row is not that. That should never be the case. That should never be the case. Because it says within the question that all columns, all rows, and all diagonals have to be properly the same value. I believe that question part D is just going to have us check if it's all the same. And we'll burn that bridge when we get to that we get to that position.
Yeah, I think part D already covers what you asked in the sense that like it checks whether or not everything is magic, no?
Yes.
So like I think at the end you have to kind of run, the intent is that you run is magic before everything else so that you can make sure everything works and then
everything works out. Yeah. So get size, just returning our size value, which is as expected 3. Get value at 0 and 2, which as we expected is 6. Good thinking. Constant is just going to be our magic constant, which in this case is 15. Or hold on a second. That isn't a magic. This isn't a magic cube or a square. So we're trying to think for this. Can you make the code a bit bigger? Is there a way to make VS Code a bit bigger?
Try full screening it.
Full screening it?
If that helps. I'll let you know. That doesn't make it bigger. Let me look it up.
Close my Steam. You can see what my Steam is. Appearance. Okay, let me just.
So apparently you press Control plus.
Control plus. Oh God. Okay.
I mean, that worked.
I mean, there we go. How you coded get value? Right. Ahmad, you want to explain that?
Sure. Do you mind making me host for a second? Because I feel like I can't explain this without drawing it out.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. Participants. Toss that to you. Yep. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Nice. I'm God now.
You are God now.
All right. So. Okay, so basically the way that it works is kind of like this. We have a 1, 2, 3. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have a 9-dimensional array, and that's the initial thing that we have. That's our initial array, which is 9 elements, and then that gets converted into a cube, right? So we have 3 by 3. Now this 9-dimensional array is what we have initially. We can't convert it into a 3 by 3. but they still want to access it like it's a 3x3 array. So let's say we want to, and I'll just number this now so that it's easy for you guys to follow along, because I know speaking through just words is not always enough. So here's 0, 1, 2, 3. I'm drawing this out with a mouse, so excuse the edginess, but oh well. So this is how it's indexed. Oh well.
The intent is there.
There was an effort. So this is what our one-dimensional array looks like, and this is what our two-dimensional array looks like. And let's say we wanted to access the element over here at 1, 1. So at 1, 1, we would have to start at 0 and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In our one-dimensional array, they would look like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we land at number 4. So our index is number 4. So the reason we do row times size plus column is because we have 1 times 3 plus 1, which is equal to 4, to get to the position we need. So basically what happens is it's like you took each section and then stack them on top of each other. And that's how you get your two-dimensional array. And that's why we have row times size plus column, because we're skipping rows to get to the position we need. So for example, if we have if we have row 2, column 1, that means we skip 2 rows. So in our one-dimensional array, that means we can skip this row, 0 to 2, and we can skip 3 to 5, and hop straight over here. And we know that it's at index number 1. So that means that we go straight to 7, right? Because we skipped this row, and we skipped this row. And that means we do the same here. Skip this, 1, 2, and that's how we get here. Let me know if that doesn't make any sense. It's row times, it's actually the reason I know this is because like, this kind of sounds weird to mention, but like I learned it in a high school coding class. And my teacher was incredibly smart, so like he showed me these tips and tricks.
Linus Tech Tips.
So it's actually row times size plus column. I can show you. If only it was Linus.
There's no RGB here.
Here, I'll just go over do you guys want another explanation? Like if that one wasn't intuitive, I can try to like give you a visual example as to why it works. Which is not how you derive the equation. The best way I can describe how I derived the equation is that I just know that I need to skip these 2 rows. So I have my size, which is 3, and because it's a square, the size is 3 on both sides. So size is uniform for both sides of this square. So if I'm skipping, so if I need to index row 2 and column 1, So I know that if I were to take these pieces and make them into a single one-dimensional array, that means I need to skip two sets of three elements because that's two rows of three elements. So that means, oh my God, I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, perfect. So in our case, I would say I'm skipping this row and this row. So that's 2 times 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't even know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 2 times 3. That's the first part, which is row times column. And then, or row times size, my bad. And then plus the column, which is here number 1. So I just go, I traverse once, twice. So I just traverse 1, 2. And that's where I get the plus 1, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I can't give you a formal mathematical proof as to why this works. The best I can offer up is a diagram. And I hope that suffices. I'll talk about this again, actually, because there is something, like somebody asked a question in this vein earlier on, and we're going to get back to that. But anyways, I'll let you take the reins again, Sean.
I'm just trying to look for an example we did in ITI 1120, because I know we had the exact same question, in one of our labs.
Really? Like this, the magic square question?
Yes, the exact same question.
Huh. Weird.
I found it, lab 8. Because I think what they did, it's very much pain. Hold on, actually, if you guys want to, what I recommend you do, if you want to see how to do magic squares, go to lab 8 of ITI 1120 if you're in Vita's class, and it should be or actually no, I think it's shared. It should be within there, because I remember we did the exact same question, and the solutions are indeed posted for that. What they did is just 3 different for loops, which just goes through or actually this might be a bit harder. I think this would be harder because for this one we're still in one-dimensional array. Or actually, I have an idea.
While you look, do you mind if I just make a plug for these 3 websites?
Oh yeah, go for it.
So I'm just putting in a few websites into the chat because somebody asked earlier, sorry, I'll just hide the chat so that I'm not like exposing anybody, but somebody asked, darn, can you give us tips and how to take notes and what to do before and after the class, as for like, because the coding is quite different from the regular math. So the places I recommend to go to gain an intuition is the links I'm sending in the chat. Maybe HankerRank. HankerRank has recently been kind of commercialized, and it's really it's more of a LinkedIn type thing than it is a practice website. But basically, these websites offer up daily problems for you to solve in coding. And honestly, the best way to develop intuition for code is to code. There's really no two ways about it. And so like taking 10 to 20 minutes a day to practice on that stuff is important. As for taking notes, I would say always try to place more emphasis on the actual algorithm itself than the code. You can look up the syntax and you can look up what line of code you need specifically, because that's always available on the internet. But what's more important is paying attention to what abstract idea the professor is trying to explain using their code. As for taking notes, the lectures are recorded, so I don't see a point in taking extensive notes. Maybe take notes for questions that you want to investigate later, or just little jots. But other than that, because of the fact that they're recorded, there's no point in taking long, detailed notes unless that's your style already. But yeah, and those three websites, the first three anyways, are the ones I recommend if you want to do like little practice. They offer up like little guided, yeah, they offer up like guided practices with solutions so that you can do mathematical problems like the ones you see in your test or like the ones we just saw.
Nice.
Anyways, that's my little like
Plug.
I guess rant.
Okay, so toss me your. I'm host again, right?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll make you host again.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I've already got it.
Oh, why am I still screen sharing then?
I have. You're still able to screen share. It only cancels out once I start.
Oh, okay, okay.
Which I will do so right now. Okay, so just making sure. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so I looked again at the question. Implement the helper method is magic diagonals. This method returns true, so we know it's Boolean. If and only if both sums, the sums of the elements on the main diagonal and the anti-diagonal, are equal to the magic constant. The method is called by the method is magic. You are not required to implement the other two methods called by is magic square. Specifically, you do not have to implement is magic rows and is magic. So here's what we're going to do. So since we only need to look at the diagonals, this shouldn't be too bad. Now, I think we could just actually use the same equation right here. Row times size at column. Let me close that. I need to enable my tablet drivers. Start driver. Okay, so if I could find my pen, annotate. Okay, let's see if this works. So because we're going on the diagonals, we have 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. We need to check. Let me check if I can change color there. But then you need unique notation to access diagonals. No, is it not always? It shouldn't be too bad though. If we use, we're just assuming for this case 3. But the way I have it in my head works out, I think it should work for any size. Okay, so we're gonna have 2 for loops. One for loop is going to go through here, here, and here. And then the other for loop is going to go the other way. So here, here, and here. So we're going to have a for loop that, let me leave here. We're going to have a first for loop that starts at 0. 0 in this case is checking this position. So wait, what the heck happened here? Okay. Temp 1 is equal to values. No, temp 1 is equal to temp 1 plus values at position values at position
I think I and then
I times I and then plus I.
Oh right, it's a one-dimensional array.
It's a
my bad.
one-dimensional array. Yep.
Right. I guess
I assume it'd just be I times size, which is 3, plus I. And then that we're just going to have it loop through there. And then we're going to have an if statement here. If temp1 does not equal magic, which is the proposed magic number. Oh yeah, size. Thank you. If temp1 does not equal our magic number that we've designated before, then we're just going to return false right there. We don't need to loop again if we don't need to. Else, or no, we can just keep going. And then we have just another thing, except this time we're going to start at size minus 1. And then I is equal to 0.
I think greater than or equal to 0.
Greater than or equal?
Yeah.
Like that, right? Yeah. And then
other way, that's less than 0.
Thank you.
No problem.
And then we're going to subtract this time. And then we need to reset our temp1 to equal to 0. And then we're going to go, actually, wait, no. No, that's just going to go like that.
No, I think you might be right, because you're starting at the bottom diagonal and going in reverse.
We'd be starting, oh yeah, wait.
But then the last issue is
we'd be starting at 2, 2 and 0. The problem would lie with I believe, because I in this case would be equal to 2.
Do plus size minus I.
Plus size minus I.
Yeah, between brackets.
Yep. That.
Yeah, I'm guessing here that this. Hold on, let me try to calculate.
I think it should work, because well, I mean, we could just test it, see where it goes, and then that else return true. I keep capitalizing because I'm stupid.
It's getting to you.
It is. We'll do S2 dot is magic diagonals, and if S2 if it works out, it returns true. If it doesn't, we cry. Okay, false. I'm gonna cry. I don't think it's that difficult of a calculation though, because Sag indeed, very much Sag. Would be Sag my they got false for S1, not S2 though.
Oh, it's 816. That might solve your problem. Try 816 because that was the one that got them true.
Okay.
Like in the first row.
16. And I'll do.
Nice catch, Yusri.
Very good catch. Yeah, still nothing.
Oh, that's sad.
I think it's
Remove the
just
second one. I think that might be the one causing you issues. Just comment out like the second for loop.
second for loop.
Yeah.
Because we need to. Yeah, that's the only one we need. Or actually, wait, no, I'm doing this wrong. Let's just do that. Nope. There. And then
What is going on?
there. It usually does that.
I think those need to be commented out as well. If you
Yeah.
select those lines and press Control / it comments it out.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. Fun fact.
Yeah, that's just. Let's just check our first. Return true. Oh, the valid, very valid. Okay, so our main diagonal is fine. We just need to check the other diagonal. So I times size, so that's fine. Because starting at we'd be initially
Starting at 2, yeah.
2, so skip past here plus
Oh, minus size -1. My bad.
minus size -1.
Yes. No. Like what you had was right. It's just minus size minus I minus
Yes.
1.
-1. Okay.
Yeah, the reason being is that I is always less than size. It's always less than 3. The line 42 is commented still.
Line 42. Thank you. Hey, it worked.
Yeah, sorry. I gave you bad advice at first.
No, all good, all good. You already gave us row times size plus column out. That's already ingenious in itself.
Thanks, I guess. I'm just copying answers.
Yeah. I think it's 9:08, so I think that's actually a good place to send it off here. It is bedtime indeed. Thank God I'm not streaming tonight, because I would cry.
I hope you guys. I hope we can't even speak.
I
I
hope.
hope we were helpful
Yeah.
tonight. We do have a DSC Discord, so if you guys have questions for us, they're like Sean and I, among many other like upper year students, have taken this stuff before. I mean, Sean is currently taking it, so he's the best equipped to answer your questions. And so if you come on the Discord, which I will link to you guys,
I got it. Oh wait,
thank you.
I got it.
We can answer any questions. Anybody is welcome, and if you guys want, you can check out the DSC, the Google DSC, which we linked at the beginning of this video. We really hope we helped you guys out, and we hope you the best in your studying. I know ITI 1121 can be
pain.
Let's just say it. Yeah, a pain.
Pain.
Very
yeah.
tedious and a huge learning curve. But once you get over that hill, the rest become easier to grasp. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, I think that. I hope that tonight was relatively useful for the people watching the recording. I hope you guys found everything here to be pretty nice and useful, albeit my very mediocre code. How do you print numbers in the square shape? I mean, that I don't imagine being too hard. You could just, for there, what you can do is that you have a temporary string, right, and then you have a counter, and then you add you add numbers from the array into that string, and you increment up the counter up by 1. Once then you have an if statement. If counter is equal to 3, you print out that string, you reset the string, and you start, and you and you start again. Yeah. That's how I would do it, I think. You can do that, except the problem with that is that you're getting yourself out of and other size squares. That's the issue there. Yeah, it's not always 3 for size.
Yeah, no.
Exactly.
Generally, yeah, most often they're not gonna make it that easy on you guys and make it a fixed size.
Mhm.
Sad.
Sag. We can hope. Okay. That just about print statements size times. Yeah. Essentially.
No problem.
Could you use a for loop of size and then append n elements with a line separator? And make it 2 string. Yeah, I guess that would be the best way of going about it, just making a 2-string method.
That is.
Yeah.
It's the most efficient way to go about it.
It is the most efficient way, yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I think that's where we should close the meeting. Not sure if my previous comments seen, but for the last diagonal, it's essentially the same thing, except in this case, we're going to start, instead of starting from 0 and 0, we're going to be starting from, we're going to start at the very end, so 2, and then we're just going to keep subtracting. And then instead of values at position I times size plus I, we have it be value at position I times size plus size minus I minus 1. Yeah. Well, I'm not the smart one. The mod series is the smart one.
No.
Hey, you're the one who came up with that, or your high school teacher, I guess. But...
Yeah, that guy is operating on another level.
All right. That being said, you can stop the recording and we can end the meeting here.
Yep. I'm trying to see how I can end it. Actually, are you the host? No, I'm the host. My bad.
You're the host, boy. Oh wait, no, I'm the host. Okay, stop recording. Is go ahead and start on mine computer?
I'm the host. I am God now.
No.
Okay, I put Matthew in the waiting room, and I'm gonna end the recording here.